What do you make of Marnus Labuschagne moving up a spot to open the innings?
Well, I think it's spot on, Jimmy. I think the selectors probably don't really know their top six. You know, it's been that way probably for the last couple of years. They've been trying different opening partnerships. And I think this was the roll of the dice, the last roll of the dice for Marnus Labuschagne. I think they're giving him an opportunity because probably there's no other spot. I think Cam Green comes into the side and he bats 4. Smith will want to bat 3. So I think they've gone to him and gone, well, you know, you've got county experience. He plays well in the big games, but I think if he fails here, he could be in trouble. Doesn't necessarily mean, Jimmy, that the first person that's going to bat in the West Indies first test coming up after this test series will necessarily play in this test match. They could chop and change it over there as well. But I think this is an opportunity for Marnus to go out there and score some runs. And if he does that, then I think he will stay in that position. But I still think the selectors are still wondering who to put into that position. But, yeah, I think Marnus will be given the green light for this one.
So you feel that Marnus could really be playing for his test future ahead of what's going to be huge Ashes? Of course, there is a test series in the West Indies after the World Test Championship final. Is it getting that series now for Marnus?
Well, I think so. I think, you know, if he doesn't perform in this test match and he misses out, he may not play that first test match in the West Indies. And as you said, no, it's 3 test matches against the West Indies. What you want is you want an opening batsman that's going to play the 3 against the West Indies and then he goes straight into the Ashes series, and you know they've got to give them an opportunity. I think Sam Constance will come into the mix if Marnus fails, but you've got Josh Inglis over there as well. I like the way he bats. He could certainly slot into the top order, but you know, getting Cam Green back into a forward, you've got to play Bo Webster because he's got to bowl, so he's got to be in our top 6. So what I don't like is I don't like the chopping and changing of the Australian selectors. I think they've got to stick to a plan heading into the first test, Ashes test match I'm talking about. That's in November. So you want to be able to settle that in. You don't want to be going into the Australian summer with a lot of test cricket coming up and not knowing who's going to open the batting. So I would have thought whoever opens in the West Indies should open the first couple of test matches here in Australia. And Marnus at the moment is, you know, he's got his head above water at the moment, but he'll have to bat well.
You mentioned Cam Green. It's a big return too. His first test match in well over a year. You certainly can't fault his English county form in the last few weeks, BJ. 300s there, but does he suit the number 3 spot?
Well, I think he'll come in at number 4. I think Steve Smith will come in at 3. I think they would rather push him further down the order rather than keep him in at 3. I know it's only one position, but I think that suits him a lot better. You're not going to move Travis Head at 5. He locks that in. Bo Webster, you're not going to move him up the order, so he'll stay at 6. But no doubt they want to get Greeny into the side. He's in good form. He's played a lot of county cricket. But if he comes in just as a batsman, then he holds his spot as a batsman. Now, if he doesn't do that well, then, you know, you've got Josh Inglis coming into the situation, as I've said before, Sam Constance knocking on the door as well. So I still think there are a lot of opportunities up there. But for Cam Green coming at a 4, I think that's his ideal spot.
As opposed to perhaps the top of the order when they're all fit. The real constant for the Aussie Test team, as we know, has been the big 4 bowling attack. And you think they still remain pretty crucial against South Africa's top 6?
Yeah, and they'll love bowling at Lords as well. I mean, I think Hazelwood bowled well spell at training, so he'll come into the side. Bolden will probably sit on the bench for this one, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. Mitch Stark will be, he'll be impressive, you know, given the fact there's a little bit of slope at Lords, and Pat Cummins will bowl well as well. So I think it's going to be tough for the South African batsmen, no doubt about it. That's their weakness, South Africa. That's probably with the bat. They've got some strength with the ball, but you know, our bowling quartet for this test match at Lords, I think it'd be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, gee, the Proteas bowling attack, not too shabby either. And they've been getting tips from one of the best in English conditions, the old nemesis, Stewie Broad's been helping them out, BJ.
Yeah, and look, I like that. I mean, Ngidi and Rabada Ngidi, Marco Jansen, a big left arm, I think he'll bowl well at Lords. Look, and I think Stuart Broad's been talking about the slope at Lords. And look, as a bowler, there's no doubt that does play a little bit of an effect. You're bowling from the pavilion end and you're a right-handed bowler. This is where Glenn McGrath took most of his wickets, as sort of angles into the right-handed batsman. And then you flip it around at the nursery, and if you're a left-armer like Marco Jansen or Mitch Stark, then you're taking it away from the right-hander. So there are subtle changes, and that's something you have to get used to. You can't afford to not settle in for the first couple of spells. You've got to make sure you're bowling at the stumps, and when you're bowling at certain ends, you know, you've got to get your action right, because it can get away pretty quickly at Lords. It's a quick outfield. I think what will come into this, Jimmy, is the spinners. I mean, it's forecast not bad weather for the first couple of days, but it's dry. I think I've been reading the reports. It looks really dry. So, Nathan Lyon will come into it. And Maharaj, the left-arm spinner, I think he could play a big role for South Africa. Our sort of batting against left-arm spinners not being great. So I think he could come into it as well. But, yeah, there's no doubt you've got to play spinner over there. And that's where I think, Nathan Lyon will do a bulk of the bowling. And I think Bo Webster will do a bit of bowling as well. And then you strike with the other big quicks. So, it'll be interesting. But I think South Africa will have their work cut out against the Aussies.
Wanted. One opening partner for this guy. Whether it's the veteran Marnus or the kid Sam Constas who gets the call, the Aussies are happy it's a hard decision to make.
Everyone's hitting the ball really nicely, so there's some good competition for spots, which is always what you want. So, yeah, everyone's ready.
The trendy prediction has Cameron Green playing as a batsman only at number 3 behind whoever opens, with Smith at 4. Whatever happens around him, Smith says his approach remains unchanged.
It's just a position. You could be facing the brand new ball batting at 4. You could lose 2 wickets in the first over, or, so there's no real difference.
The Duke's ball in English conditions with these 2 bowling lineups gets one thinking of a seam-dominated final. However, Smith warns the respective spinners, Nathan Lyon and Keshav Maharaj, could play a big role.
Hasn't been too much rain, which can be rare for England, obviously. But it does look like quite a dry surface, and I think the footmarks will definitely come into play as the game wears on.
An old foe isn't hiding his admiration for the Aussie attack.
Lyon, Hazelwood, Cummins and Stark, they've been around for a long time, but they just keep coming at you. There's never a moment where you think we've got things under control.
South Africa are firm underdogs against the Aussies and their mighty bowlers. They say they're quietly confident, and their coach reckons they'll have the crowd behind them.
We'd probably be enjoying the majority of the support. I think all the English will be supporting us as well.
But the reception they'll get from the Lord's crowd, even after that little run-in 2 years ago, is well down the Aussie list of concerns.
Unsure, and I'm actually not fussed either way.
Sunil Awasthi, Fox Sports News.